Okay, this video is going to look at multiplying decimals by whole numbers. This lesson is very similar to how you would multiply regular numbers. So for example, if you had a number that looked like this, say if we did 19 multiplied by 7, okay? I know a lot of you in my class like to break up the 19 into 10 and 9. So then you would multiply 10 times 7, 9 times 7. That's 70, that's 63, and then you would add them together and you get your answer of 133. The same can happen with decimals. Let me show you how. If I were to make this 1.9 multiplied by 7. Now, here's the first thing you're going to say to me. Why aren't you lining up the decimals? Well, for multiplying decimals and dividing them, we do not have to line them up. Okay, so let me write this down. You do not have to line up the decimals. And that's good news. Okay, not when you're multiplying. So multiplying, no lining them up. Okay, and I'll show you at the end why you don't have to line them up. So again here with this, you can pretend there's no decimal. So here's one trick that I used to do when I was your age, back in grade 6 and grade 7. I would pretend there was no decimal there. So I would multiply it, and then here I would find where the decimal is. There's only one decimal. And I would include it at the end where I had my solution. Okay, but this is what 1.9 can look like. If you were to break up 1.9, you have 1 and you have 0.9. 1 times 7 is 7, and 0.9 times 7, 6.3. Okay, I'll give you a second to do that on your calculator. That is the product, what you get. So now when you add these together, now you have to line up decimals here because you're adding 3.3 in the 1, 13.3. Okay, I know this might be tricky. So let's do some other examples and we'll get through this really easily. Okay, so you can just multiply this number as it is. This is the beauty about multiplying decimals. It's really easy. Let's use a different color here. Okay. You have 6 times 2 is 12. You put the 2, carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. You put the 5 there, carry the 2. 6 times 2, 12 plus 2, 14. So now, here there are 2 decimal spots being used. You include the 2 decimal points over here. Your answer is 14.52. Okay, here I want to show you what is shown in your book of how you break it down. So this is another way of doing it. If you look at this here, it says 2 multiplied by 4.63. You can just multiply this by each place value. This is one way to do it. I am not a fan of doing it this way because I find it can get very confusing for some people. At least it confused me, so I don't have a problem admitting when certain math strategies confuse me. But this is a little confusing for me, but I understand why this would work for some students. So if this works for you, I 100% encourage you to do this. You take 2, and then first you multiply it by 4. That's the ones column. 2 times 4 is 8. Then you take the 2, you multiply it by 6. 2 times 6 is 12. And then you go into the final column. 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. Now, here's where it can get a little confusing because you cannot have double digits in a place value. The largest digit you're allowed to have in a place value is 9. The smallest digit you can have in a place value is 0. So this does not work. You cannot have 12. But we know that 12 tenths is equal to 1.2. And 1.2 is simply 1 ones and 2 tenths. That's what you're doing here. So then you would rewrite this as 2 tenths. This stays the same, 6 hundredths. But now that you took 10 tenths and you move them out of here, one of them needs to go here. So now you have 9 ones. Okay? If you were to do this the way that I like doing it, the easy way for me, it would look like this. Multiply that by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. So you get the same answer. Okay, there would be a decimal there. You get the same answer. The only problem I have with this is if we were to do an example that looked like this. I'll stick with multiplying it by a low number. But let's use 3 as an example. If I were to do 3 multiplied by 4 decimal, 6, 5. Okay. So let's look at this example here. This is why I don't like this method, because there are numbers now that are going to require a lot of carrying. And you'll see what I mean by that right now. So I've separated it like the book has it separated with the ones, the tenths, and the hundredths. So if I were to multiply each place value, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18. And then you have 3 times 5, 15. Now you have 3 place values that all need regrouping. You cannot have 15 hundredths. You can have 5 hundredths. And then you need to carry one of them over here. So when you move 10 hundredths, it's 1 tenth. So now you have 19 tenths, which is really 9 tenths. And then you need to carry one over here. When you have 10 tenths, it's a 1. You have 13 ones, but you can't have 13 ones. You have 1 10, 3 ones, 9 tenths, and 5 hundredths. Okay, so you have 1, 3, 9, 5. Those are the numbers you have. And I find this really confusing. I understand why certain math people like to do this. I get it. But I just find it really tricky. If you're stuck without a calculator and you have a lot of time to figure this out and you want to do it like this, I support you. You will never see me doing this. Here's my solution to solving this. Line it up. 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19, carry the 1. 3 times 4, 12, plus 1 is 13. There's 2 decimal places being used here. There it is. We did this in seconds compared to what we did here. And this is confusing. This is confusing. I can't do it. If you can do it, I support you 100%. And I encourage you to do it. But realistically, I know you're going to use a calculator. But this is how you would do it without a calculator. It's very similar. And that's it for this lesson. Do a quick little recap. We're multiplying whole numbers here, pardon the mess. Multiplying whole numbers by decimals, same thing you would do like with these numbers here, okay? So rewatch the video if you need to. Thank you for dropping by again. Hope you're all safe. See you in the next video.